But I got to tell you, there's something more here going on. Y'all, it's true. It's real. Hispanic voters are realigning to the GOP. I want to read you a tweet from Joe Biden's pollster. Yep, this is Joe Biden's pollster. Texas election day. He's got the little red warning sign. Ooh, the alert. Ooh, this is big. It's Joe Biden's pollster. He's got something big, y'all. If reporters actually cared about data and not just sensationalizing headlines for clicks, breaking news, GOP sees major drop in Latino support, 2020 to 2022 in the Rio Grande Valley. Y'all, I hope Democrats believe this because he's lying. Well, he's not lying, but he is. He's trying to make you think what? That, in his words, GOP sees major drop in Latino support from 2020 to 2022. Except when you actually look at the numbers, there was a 12-point collapse in Hidalgo County, an 8-point collapse in Cameron County, a 22-point collapse in Starr County, and a 48-point collapse in Zapata County. Y'all, here's the problem. I got to be real careful here because I don't want Democrats to understand. I want Democrats to believe Hispanic support is collapsing. But there's a problem. He's looking at the November general election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden and the Republican primary in 2022 in Texas. Not even looking at the general election, which you can't because we haven't had it yet. There's the fact that a Democratic pollster, Joe Biden's pollster, would take the general election numbers and the primary election numbers and say, look at the massive drop in Hispanic support. We're talking midterm primary. We're not even talking midterm general election, midterm primaries. Actually, we have the data by comparing the Republican midterm primary of 2018 and the Republican midterm primary 2022. These are an apple comparison. So a general election, general elections tend to have, if presidential years have bigger turnout. Primaries always have low turnout. But follow along with me. You're a midterm year 2018. How many Hispanic voters decided, you know what, I'm going to go vote in the Republican primary, not the Democratic primary? That's a pretty big freaking deal. When you have Hispanic voters who are not Republican voters bother to show up and vote in a Republican primary. I mean, let me give you the example here. Starr County, Texas. Now, let me put this on the map for you, just so you know where we're talking about. Starr County, Texas is down on the southern border. It is a rural county. It is right there across the Rio Grande River. You don't even have really major, San Isidro is there, San Isidro, Texas, La Carla, Rio Grande City. It's out on the outskirts of McAllen, Texas. But it's a rural area. And in 2018, what was the Hispanic turnout in the Republican primary? 15 people. Woo-hoo-hoo! 15 Hispanic voters voted in the Republican primary. You know, those were brave souls. They probably got lost. They thought they were going somewhere else. And they showed up and voted in the Republican primary. 15 of them in 2018. You know how many of them showed up in 2022 for the Republican primary? 1,089. From 15 to 1,089 in 4 years. That's a 7,160% increase. As for the Democrats, just for perspective, 6,729 showed up in 2018. Hispanic voters in Starr, Texas, 6,729 Hispanic voters showed up for the Democrats. They made up 99% of the entire primary vote in Starr County, Texas. In 2022, 3,410. That was a 49% collapse. Now let's do the others. These are the major Hispanic border counties in Texas. Hidalgo County, saw a 113% increase from 2018 to 2022 of Hispanic voters. Willacy County, 179.8% increase. Cameron County, 162.4% increase. Total combined was 141% increase for Republicans, only 2% increase for Democrats. But for Democrats, it was a decline in everywhere except Cameron County due to a very contested congressional race there. That's not good for the Democrats. And you've got the Biden pollster others. Oh, the November 2020 presidential election turnoff to the Republican primary turnout in 2020, that's terrible. Just collapsed. But Latino voters didn't show up. No, actually, they showed up in really, really big numbers. My gosh, did they show up in big numbers. GOP turnout was up 162% in Hidalgo or in Cameron County, 113% in Hidalgo County, both in the lower Rio Grande Valley. Republican turnout was up 50% in Nueces County, which is Corpus Christi, and up 51% in El Paso, Texas. A 51% increase of Hispanic voters voting Republican. That's the entire Texas border with Mexico. A massive shift to the GOP. Now, why? Why is this shift happening? That's the more important part here, because it's happening. It's real, despite the propaganda from the Biden pollster. This is real deal stuff happening. Massive shift to the GOP. Do you know where many of the men along those border counties work? The Border Patrol. Yes. Yes. A lot of the men work for the Border Patrol in those counties. The men who've been accused of beating Mexicans with whips from horseback. The men who've been accused of putting children in cages. The men who've been accused of human rights abuses. Yes, they're on the border working for the federal government as Border Patrol agents, and the Democrats are making them the bad guys. They're furious. Not only that, social issues matter greatly. The Democrats are trying to pass abortion on demand. The Democrats are putting boys in girls' sports. The Democrats are passing all sorts of social agenda stuff that Hispanic voters really don't like. Whether they're Catholic or Protestant, Hispanic voters really do not like social justice warrior nonsense. But there's something else as well. I mean, it's a plethora of issues, and this is why it's going to be horrific for the Democrats. There's also the jobs stuff. It's the Democrats who have been most restrictive and most draconian when it comes to masks and COVID policy. These Hispanic people go to jobs. A lot of them go to jobs in the service and hospitality industry. They're forced to wear a mask while the white Democrats aren't having to do it. And they're furious with the double standard. And the Republicans are the ones who are the great equalizers. Joe Biden's agenda is stuck on neutral. He can't change, he can't shift, he can't get it passed, he can't make inroads with these groups of voters who are fleeing to the Republican Party because Joe Biden won't secure the border. His base is blasting their husbands and brothers and sons who are Border Patrol agents. He's trying to put boys and the girls' sports in their schools. He's forcing them into masks and shutting down their jobs and businesses. This is an entire cultural shift to the GOP in Texas, and it's not just Texas. Throughout the Southwest, Hispanics are flipping to the GOP. Democrats always said demography was destiny. Turns out they thought that worked for them, and it's not. Like the joke I heard the other day, circulating on the internet. Vladimir Putin went to an astrologer to ask what would happen. How long would he live? And the woman said, well, Mr. President, you will die on a Ukrainian holiday. Vladimir Putin says, oh, well, they don't really have any holidays in Ukraine, and they're all past now, so I'm good. She says, whichever day you die, it'll be a Ukrainian holiday. Yes, good joke. Now translate that into the borders in Texas. These Democrats, they keep saying demography is destiny. Demography is destiny. The astrologers told them demography is destiny. They just didn't tell them that meant it would be bad for the Democrats and good for the Republicans. The shift in Texas is profound. The data is profound. And it's the wokes who are doing it, the far left progressives who don't want a secure border, who hate the police, who can't create jobs, who want socialism, and who use the word Latinx. Those Democrats are going to need a lot of Kleenex because the Hispanic voters, the Latino voters, they're rejecting everything about them.